Tamara Marie from Spanish con Salsa, where we help you learn Spanish faster using the music that you love. Now, unless you've been sitting under a rock, quite literally, I know you have heard the song Despacito by Luis Fonsi featuring Daddy Yankee. If you're interested in learning Spanish, you probably have already Googled the lyrics to try to figure out what the song means. But I'm here to take you a step further. What I want to show you today is actually how you can use the song Despacito and music in general to learn Spanish. So I'm going to break down 3 concepts that you can learn from the song Despacito. ¿Listos? Vamos a empezar. So let's get to it. 3 Spanish hacks that you can learn from the song Despacito. Now, this is the most downloaded song of all time, which is insane. I think the last time I checked the YouTube video count, it was at over 2 billion views. So that is crazy. So this song is insanely popular. What I wanted to point out to you is that if you want the full lyrics with a translation and a breakdown of what the translation actually means, you can go to the site SpanishConSalsa.com/Despacito. And there we give you not only the translation into English, but you also are going to get explanations of the different phrases and expressions used in the song, a little bit of an explanation of the pronunciation and accent that's used there as well. And we give you some quizzes, some key phrases, and some examples of Spanish that you can use in day-to-day conversation. So it's a lot more than just the lyrics. So I hope you'll check it out, SpanishConSalsa.com/Despacito. Now, what I'm going to do now, I'm not going to give you a line-by-line breakdown of the lyrics, but I'm going to actually give you 3 specific things that you can learn from the song that will help you not only understand Spanish better when you hear it in different contexts, but you'll also be able to use some of the things that I go over with you today. So hack number 1, you're going to learn the Spanish diminutive. And if you're wondering what that is, we'll talk about it in a second. Hack number 2, you're going to learn how to say, I have to do something, or I must do something, which is a very, very common phrase to use. So I will break down how it's used in the song and how you can use it day to day in your conversation. And hack number 3 is how to use the word ya. Okay, it's a very short word. You probably hear it a lot if you haven't already noticed it's used in the song a lot, but it's also a word that you can use in day-to-day conversation. So we'll talk about how it's used and what it means. So let's get to it. Hack number 1, using the diminutive. Now, what is the diminutive anyway? So you might be familiar with this if you see some of the examples, but I'm going to break down what it means from a grammar perspective, just so you kind of have that background. It's really just a word ending that you use to indicate something is little or small or cute or endearing. It's really just a way to make a word sound a little cuter, right? So let's look at some examples of that. Now, in English, the diminutive endings are things like ie or y, or the suffix let. So a few examples in English. You have dad turning to daddy. So that's a term of endearment. It's a cute way that kids usually refer to their parents. Then you have dog, which becomes doggy. Again, usually indicates the dog is cute or little. And then book becomes booklet. So a booklet is just a smaller version of a book, right? A mini book. So those are ways the diminutive is used in English. In Spanish, the diminutive is a little bit different. You have the endings ito or cito, and you also might hear ico. Now, ico, I think, is used mainly in Costa Rica, maybe a few other places, but ito and cito are probably the more common diminutive endings that you'll hear in Spanish. So in the song Despacito, obviously the title of the song, right, is an example of the diminutive in Spanish. So the word that it actually comes from is despacio, which means slow. But despacito is sort of like a little slowly, right? So it's a diminutive of the word despacio. You also hear in the song the word pasito, which is the diminutive of paso, which is a step. Okay? And that's sort of towards the end of the song in the chorus where it said over and over again, pasito a pasito. And then you also have suave, which becomes suavecito in the diminutive, and then poco, which becomes poquito. And that's one I'm sure everyone is familiar with, right? When someone asks you, do you speak Spanish? You say, un poquito, poquito, right? That's the diminutive of the word poco for small. Now, just a quick note of the spelling change. So you might notice that poquito is spelled with a Q, and that's just to maintain the sound of the word. So if it was spelled P-O-C-I-T-O, it would actually be pronounced posito. Let's see if you can form the diminutive of some Spanish words. So it's your turn. I'm going to give you a word in Spanish, and I want you to think about what the diminutive is. I'll give you a few seconds, and then I'll show you the answer, okay? Sound good? So, hermano, which means brother. So if you wanted to say little brother in Spanish, what would you say? Hermanito, okay? So it's little brother. So you're adding that ito to the end of hermano. Now we have a name, Juana, right? So this is a name, so this is important. You can also use the diminutive for a name. So it's like a term of endearment for a friend. You can kind of make their name the diminutive. And in this case, Juana becomes Juanita. Now, if you look at that, you notice that in this case, it retains the feminine characteristic of the word. So it's not Juanito, because that would be for a guy, right? A guy named Juan would be Juanito. But in this case, it's Juanita because it's a female. So that A stays instead of the O at the end. And then lastly, we have pobre. So the ending for pobre is, you may have guessed, pobrecito. And you may hear this a lot, especially if you have friends that speak Spanish. If something bad happens to you, if you're having a bad day, someone might just say, oh, pobrecito, right? Just kind of means you poor thing, okay? So that is the diminutive in Spanish. Now let's get to hack number 2. How to say I have to do something. So if you are a beginner with Spanish, or if you're a little bit more advanced, you definitely have heard this before, but I want to show you how it's used in the song and how you can also use it. So to form this sort of construction, you just have to use the verb tener, which is to have, plus the word que, plus a verb, any verb in the infinitive form. And that just means it's sort of base form, all right? So I'll show you an example of how it's used in the song. So right at the beginning of the song, Luis Fonsi says, tengo que bailar contigo hoy. Okay, forgive me, I can't sing, but he says that. So he's saying, I have to dance with you today. Like, I must dance with you, right? No question about it, right? So that's how he's using it in the song, but you can also use that in day-to-day conversation. So a few examples of that are, you could say, tengo que ir al supermercado. I have to go to the supermarket, right? That's something really common that I'm sure you do at least once a week. So that's a phrase that you can use day to day. You can also say, tienes que comer algo, like you have to eat something, right? Like maybe it's been like 6 hours since breakfast, you haven't had lunch yet, you're talking to a friend, you say, look, you have to eat something, right? So again, this tener is always conjugated in the present tense, okay? So tengo que is the first person, I, and tienes que is second person, you, and that's informal. All right, so you can use any of the present tense conjugations of the verb tener to form this I have to or I must, okay? Now, hack number 3, how to use the word ya. Now, ya is a very short word, but it's used quite a bit. And it's a little bit subtle, but I want you to understand that it really can change the meaning quite a bit of what you're listening to. So I'm going to give you a few examples of how to use the word ya and what it means in different contexts. So what does ya mean, right? So depending on the context, it can mean stop or enough, now, or already, okay? And there's a few other meanings as well, but these are some of the main ones. So the first one's kind of simple. So if someone's doing something that annoys you, or if they're talking too much, or if a child is misbehaving, you can just say, yeah. It's like stop, enough. Now, for the other 2 uses of ya that are mentioned here, I'll actually show you examples from the song to illustrate how it's used. Now, the first example from the lyrics is towards the beginning, sort of in the first verse. It says, sí, sabes que ya llevo un rato mirándote. So it's like, yes, you know I've already been looking at you for a while. So he's saying, look, I've already been checking you out, all right? You already know, okay? So this ya, in this case, before llevo un rato mirándote, means already. So he's not just saying, you know I'm looking at you, right? He's saying, I've already been looking at you, right? So like this is already in process. This has already been happening. So again, it's a small word that's just stuck in there, but it does change the emphasis a little bit and gives a little bit of a different meaning to the sentence. So it's important to kind of understand that. Now, another example in the same verse, it says, vi que tu mirada ya estaba llamándome. So again, this ya, he could have just said, tu mirada estaba llamándome, which is like your eyes were looking at me or calling me. But in this case, the ya, again, he's saying, you were already looking at me, right? Or you were already, your eyes were already calling me, right? So again, it indicates something's already in process. So again, a subtle difference, but it's important to sort of understand how that's used. And the last example from the song that we'll look at, it's actually used twice in this verse by Daddy Yankee, where he's saying, ya me estás gustando más de lo normal. So he's saying, I already like you more than usual, okay? So now he's using it musically here. He says it twice. So you can look at it as that first ya, he's saying like now, right? And I'm already liking you more than normal or more than usual. So ya, that ya in this case is again already, right? So he's not just saying I like you more than normal or I like you more than usual. He's saying I'm already starting to like you a little bit more than I usually do, okay? So again, a subtle difference, but important to understand in the context. Now I'm going to give you one more use of ya. Now this is not in the song, but it's important because it drastically changes the meaning of the word. So we already talked about ya meaning already, stop or enough, and it can also be used to mean now. But if you add the word no right after ya, it actually means no longer or anymore. So if you hear ya no, like in this example, ya no quiero ir, it doesn't mean I already don't want to go. It means I don't want to go anymore. Okay, I no longer am interested in going. All right, so that's an important distinction. And another example of that, if you say ya no estamos juntos, you're not saying now we're not together. You're saying we are no longer together, right? We're not together anymore. So again, that is just a really different use of ya. So I wanted to point that out. And again, there are other uses, but I just wanted to give you a few of the common examples of how it's used. So that is it. I hope that you enjoyed this really brief video on the song Despacito. And I hope you can use those 3 hacks that I went over as you're listening to Spanish day to day and in your own conversation. So I just wanted to end with a few examples. In the song, we already went over the diminutive of poquito and pasito, but you can also use poco and paso in the same way they do in the song. So you can say, you know, estoy aprendiendo español poco a poco. I'm learning Spanish little by little. Or you can say paso a paso. Hay que aprender step by step, right? Paso a paso. So you can say that one must learn or you have to learn step by step. So if you're interested in learning Spanish faster with music, head on over to SpanishConsalsa.com. There we will have a whole selection of different courses for you to dive right in and learn more Spanish today. We would love to have you as a part of our community. And even if you decide not to join us, I hope you got something out of today's video and that you continue learning Spanish paso a paso, step by step. Ciao.